Now, over the last 48 hours, we've seen two great Champions League semi-finals. Liverpool were playing away to Villarreal. They went there with a lead, but Villarreal caught them. It was a 2-0 lead. Villarreal were 2-0 up at half-time, and that game ended with Liverpool getting back to their best and winning quite comfortably in the end. But the game we'll start talking with John Giles and Liam Brady is Real Madrid versus Manchester City. It was a stunning match. John, you'd have to say City were hot favourites to win this tie, and they went ahead, and that gave them a 2-goal lead. They went 1-0 up. It looked all over, but in the 90th and 91st minute, a young Brazilian, Rodrigo, scored 2 goals, and in the end, Karim Benzema scored a penalty to win the tie. It was fantastic football, John. What do you think Pep Guardiola will be asking himself this morning about their inability to close the deal?
Well, I'd say he'll go over it, Eamon, would be very, very disappointed, obviously, in the result. Because they looked like they were they were odds on to win it at one stage in the match, as we know. But, fair play to Madrid. No, they came back really well, Eamon. He stayed in the game and came back and took advantage of a bit of a lot of poor marking from Manchester City.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was over. They had chances, City, during the 90 minutes, and they didn't put it to bed, as they say, Eamon. But you got to give Ancelotti and Madrid a great deal of credit for sticking at it, coming back and winning the game like they did.
Yeah, and of course their history in the Champions League and before that it was known as the European Cup is amazing. They've won it 13 times. The crowd were behind them all the way. Let me ask you about Kevin De Bruyne. He was taken off after 67 minutes. He's a player that has been praised lavishly by many people in the game, some in England saying he's the best midfield player in Europe. I don't think you see him quite as favourably as that. I certainly don't. He is a very talented guy, but he doesn't sometimes do it on the big occasions. And last night they don't come much bigger than last night.
No, he's a very, very talented player, Eamon. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he has been described as the best midfield player in Europe. I've never subscribed to that, to be honest, because he's very, very moody.
Yeah.
Like last night, there was one of the goals he could have made a better effort to get back, and he does that a lot. And he's very, very easy on the eye, and he scores spectacular goals. He's a very, very good player. But I don't like his attitude most of the time, Eamon.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a team lad. I'd say he's always, looking to have a go at one of his teammates and not doing it in a way that he should be doing it. I wouldn't blame him for. Obviously, I know you're not blaming me for the defeat last night, but I've never ever thought he was the best. I think he's a talented player and get good goals. But if you look at him in the middle of the field, and he doesn't dictate the play in the middle of the field, at all. And I think his attitude with his teammates is not good. I've seen him throwing his hands up even last night. If somebody delivered the ball, it wasn't a good ball, it went past him, and his hands are up in the air, and he's looking around and saying, "What the hell's going on here?" And I don't like that attitude in anybody. Again, if you go back last night, you see Modric playing again. I've never ever seen him do anything like that.
No.
He doesn't get on to his teammates. He gets on with it and gets on with the game. And he's a real team player. I never see De Bruyne in that light.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't again last night. I mean, we're talking about him now and now, but he wasn't to blame last night for everything that went wrong with Manchester City.
Okay, Liam, Carlo Ancelotti, he's won the league title now in 5 different European countries. He's won the Champions League 4 times. Did you play against him, or was he a bit before your time, Liam, in Italy?
No, I played quite a bit against him, Eamon. He was at Roma, he was at AC Milan. He played against Liverpool in that final in Rome, went to penalties. Roma, Liverpool. Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. He was a very good player, and he was a great player at AC Milan when they had that brilliant team with Baresi and the three Dutch lads, you know.
Yes.
So Ancelotti he's played at the very highest level. He's a brilliant coach, and he comes across as a very nice man.
Yes.
He's a very cool man, you know. And he did get his substitutions right yesterday. I thought Manchester City played ever so well, and you know they kept the Bernabéu quiet. In the second half, people were leaving to go home because they couldn't see any way that Madrid were going to come back after Mare scored. I thought City were pretty flawless in the Bernabéu, which is a very, very daunting place to go, as history has proved. It just all went wrong for them in that injury time. Ancelotti got the substitutions right. This Camavinga lad, the French lad with the dreadlocks, he had loads of power and pace. And Rodrigo got to the near post for the first goal, flicked it in with his foot, and the header for the second goal. The substitutions made the difference, but it was that last minute of the match where it all went wrong for Man City in an amazing turnaround.
Yeah, and Karim Benzema, Liam, for a long period last night, he didn't have his best stuff really, but his leadership and his desire and he led the line, and for the first goal, he was on the far post, and he got a touch back with his left foot, which is his swinger really. But it was just that touch back of the net, and he never gives up, and he's a great leader. I think he should be a contender for the Ballon d'Or this year because of his performances against PSG, Chelsea, and again last night, he taking the penalty after missing 2 last week was a bit of pressure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he is a leader, Eamon, and I think we talked about him after last week, that the fact Ronaldo's not around, he's really come into his own in the last few years at Real Madrid. I think John was the one that, brought that up, and it's absolutely the case. He really does lead from the front. Now, he's a centre-forward that needs service, and he didn't get a lot, last night. Because City were so good, I think you might be a bit unfair to Man City this morning, Eamon. I don't know, but he's coming across that way to me. I thought they were pretty flawless until that first goal by Rodrigo.
Right, John. I fancied Madrid to win. In fact, I backed them at 10-1 to win the Champions League before the match, which I thought was a crazy price. They were only 1 goal behind from the first leg. I just thought it was a mad price. And I do see in that Manchester City side, well, it's a different team every week for a start. I mean, Raheem Sterling didn't start last night. Jack Grealish didn't start last night. And he did well when he came on, Grealish. He came the closest to scoring twice. De Bruyne, like you, I have my reservations. And at the back, the goals they gave up, John, one in the 90th minute, 1 minute later, they were really hopeful balls knocked into the box. Certainly the second goal, the header. It was a hopeful ball knocked in the box, and they couldn't defend it.
Well, they didn't defend it, Eamon. It did happen. But on your first thing, Eamon, with changing the team and that, all the teams are doing that. And look at the Liverpool team the other night, for example, because they're playing so many matches.
Yeah.
So, you go on the match last night, I wouldn't go back that far to say, well, they're changing the team all the time. Now, all the teams are doing that. And, it should have been defended better. There's no doubt about that. But the game in many ways should have been over as well. I mean, they had chances to do it. But it's a bad defeat, there's no doubt. I mean, you should be getting these things right and defending it well, no matter what stage of the game is in. But it was a remarkable game, and that's football. I mean, if you look over the 90 minutes, there's no doubt that Manchester City dominated the game. But
they dominated Madrid, the ball. I mean, Bernardo Silva.
Well, that's them dominating the game. I mean, that's the ball is the most important thing on the pitch. But I mean, they shouldn't be losing the goal that they did. But I mean, we'll stick to the reasons why. First of all, Madrid's spirit was great.
Yes.
To come back into the game, as you said early on.
Yep.
And they took their chances well. No doubt about that.
And they had Vinicius, another young Brazilian who looks a very, very good player. He's only a kid, but he and Rodrigo, I suppose they're players for the future. I want to ask you about two Manchester City players. Bernardo Silva, John, I think we both agree, and I'm sure Liam does, he's been brilliant this season. He's even improved, a very, very good player. On the other hand, Rodri in midfield is a bit of a statue.
Well, I wouldn't call him a statue. I think Bernardo Silva was the best player on the pitch again last night.
Yeah.
I think he has played particularly well. Rodri, I don't like. All I see him doing is getting the ball, pass it sideways. He doesn't turn around on the ball and get things going. I think he defends pretty well, but Bernardo Silva has been excellent for them. Really has.
Liam, the injury to Kyle Walker as well didn't help. He took De Bruyne off after 67 minutes, and he put Fernandinho on. I didn't quite get that. Fernandinho's legs are well gone.
Well, he's a very experienced player, Eamon, and probably at that stage of the game, he was looking for that. He didn't put him right back like he did in the first leg, where Vinicius took him to the cleaners. You know, I wouldn't blame. Really, it's very harsh to be blaming Guardiola or be blaming players and things like that.
Yeah,
they dominated the game, and they were the ones making the best chances. And let's face it, Jack Grealish, you know, he's very unlucky not to score 2 goals in the last few minutes of the match. I just, a bit like John, I'd just be putting my hands up and saying, this Bernabéu is a special place. I went there twice, Eamon, with 2-goal leads in the UEFA Cup semi-final with Inter Milan, and they did it on both times. Once 2-0 when we were winning 3-1. Once they did us 5-1 when we were winning 2-0, and the match went to extra time. It's just a freaky place to try and win at, to try and get through, you know. And I know a few teams have done it. I know a few teams have done it in the past, including Manchester City a couple of years ago when they went. But this season, I don't know. Madrid, it seems to be something spiritual going on, Eamon. This is not the first time. Like Chelsea outplayed them, and they managed to get across the line. PSG did it, and they managed to get across the line. It's a quite incredible season for Real Madrid.
Yeah, and just before we move on to Liverpool and Villarreal, on that theme, could it be written in the stars? I mean, Liverpool played them in the final. Now, I'd fancy Liverpool to beat them because they'll have their legs on them, for one thing, in midfield. Because Toni Kroos has been a very fine player for Germany and Real Madrid for a very long time, but his legs look as if they've gone. Who would you be putting your money on in the final, Liam?
Well, I think Liverpool are a better team. I think Madrid have knocked 3 teams out that like PSG, Chelsea, and Manchester City. They're probably better than them, but they seem to be possessed with something this season. So you wouldn't write them off, but I would go with what my mind is telling me, that Liverpool are a better team all round, and they should win in Paris.
Yeah, John, Madrid had Casemiro back in midfield. He's a good holding midfield player. He gets his foot in. It's a miracle he wasn't sent off. He should have had 3 or 4 yellow cards. But
Eamon, just gotta come in there. I thought the referee was very biased to Madrid as well.
I thought he was terrible. I thought he was terrible, John. The referee. He
was terrible, Eamon. Some of the decisions I couldn't believe.
No.
As you say with Casemiro, I mean, Casemiro could have been sent off twice, Eamon. In the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some of the things he did were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Really.
That idea of Liam's makes absolute sense to me when you think back to the PSG game, and then you think to the Chelsea game, where they were dead and buried on both occasions, and again to last night. Sometimes the spirit and the belief in a team, it's unreal, and you can't really explain it.
Well, I think what Liam was saying there, Eamon, is that there's something mystical about Real Madrid at home.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Now, Liverpool are not going to play them at home.
No, that's true. Right. It's not. They don't have to go to the Bernabéu.
Yeah, so it could be a difference.
Yeah,
and I think Liam is absolutely right. I mean, the history of the club, and what they've done this season alone, coming back with the teams you just mentioned there, is fantastic. But that's not where the cup final is going to be.
Right, it's going to be in Paris, of course, on the 28th of May. John, let me ask you about Liverpool's game against Villarreal. Villarreal came out, as you'd expect them to, 2 goals down from the game at Anfield. They came out all guns blazing and got the early goal, which was critical, within the first 5 minutes. I thought Liverpool were in trouble for a while because they didn't play well in the first half, didn't keep the ball, didn't pass the ball. And really, Alisson, I thought, did really well when it looked like he was bound to give a penalty, but he hesitated and got the ball first.
Well, I think Villarreal were amazing in the first half in relation to what we saw at Anfield. I didn't think it was in them, but it was in them in a big way, and they caught Liverpool by surprise to go 2 up at half time, as we know. But Liverpool did get it together, Eamon, in the second half, as we know. And I think when you get a team like Villarreal, it's very difficult to keep the tempo and the way they were playing in the first half. Yeah. You know, in the second half, they were 2 different teams altogether. I mean, they were poor in the second half, and Liverpool were good and took full advantage of it and finished up good winners in the end.
There's another problem that we've talked about a lot is Alexander-Arnold Trent. He's so brilliant with the ball at his feet, but for the second Villarreal goal, which Coquelin scored, a former Arsenal squad player, really, he was at fault. He just doesn't defend, does he?
No, he's not good defending at all. Actually, Robertson got caught a little bit for the first goal. And he's really top class defender. But that's Alexander. You live with him, Eamon. You know that's what Klopp is doing. I think when it comes to defending, luckily enough, most of the time they don't have to defend an awful lot. Liverpool, because they have so much of the ball. But you know, you have to look at it both ways. What he gives the team going forward in relation, creating goals and doing what he's doing. You have to weigh up one against the other. But certainly when it comes to defending, which Liverpool don't have to do an awful lot, there is a weak link there.
Yeah, Liam, your take on that game. Liverpool pretty poor in the first half in terms of even passing the ball, keeping the ball. But they came out in the second half and they did pass the ball. They dominated the game, and in the end, they always have a goal threat, and they got the job done.
Yeah, it was the worst I've seen Liverpool play in months, Simon. You know, they gave the ball away. You know, they were unforced errors. I don't know whether the kind of semi-waterlogged pitch had something to do with it. But Thiago's passing, who, you know, we talked about him, how well he was playing last week.
I changed your mind.
Yeah, well, I was on RTE and I did a piece on him how well he's playing, and then he goes and plays like that. You know, he was just giving the ball away for fun. He couldn't find the man. You know, and John has always, you know, gone on the fact that you have to pass the ball to get yourselves in the game, and Liverpool just couldn't get in the game because they were so poor on the ball. Konate was poor on the ball. Keita was poor on the ball. They were really unrecognisable from the team we watched all season. But no, there's something got said at half-time and they put it right. And I also think that the energy that Villarreal expended in the first half, they just couldn't keep it up, you know. And they had a few veteran players as well, and Liverpool in the end took full advantage of that, and they passed it better in the second half. And I think Diaz, bringing him on and putting him out on the left diamond was a big move by Klopp, and it made a big difference to the Liverpool team by bringing him on as well.
Yeah, John, that's a very important point. And this fella, Luis Diaz, he's a seriously good player, and it's going to be difficult not to start him, I would think, in the final even. But he brings a lot to the table, doesn't he, in terms of his talent, his attitude, his courage, and his intelligence, because he's not a flying winger that doesn't look up. He does look up.
Oh, he's a top-class player. I'm not so sure playing on the left wing is his best position. He does extremely well with the Liverpool team that in the shape that they play, which is excellent. Oh, he's definitely a top-class player. And when you think of players on the bench, that they're leaving off for him, whether it be Jota, Firmino, you know, what they have in attack is fantastic. And he certainly made a difference. I think it was one of the reasons in the second half I think the big reason really was what Liam said there. I think you would agreed to it, that they just, Villarreal couldn't keep it up.
Yeah.
They just couldn't keep it up. I mean, what they did in the first half, they couldn't keep it up, and Liverpool took advantage of that because they needed to kick up the backside. I think they got that at half time with Klopp.
Okay, just one quick question to both of you. We're going to let Liam go. He's in a forest on his way to have a game of golf. And we're very, very grateful to Liam for taking the time to talk to us about these two great games, or certainly the Madrid game last night. Liam, the final, it should be really fascinating. And you would think Liverpool, well, I'm asking your opinion, so why am I giving? You would think Liverpool would have the legs on it for one thing.
Yeah, I think so. Those three forwards, if they're on form, Mane, Salah, and I would pick Diaz. I would actually pick him. I think they're the best combination, the three. They'll give Madrid defence all sorts of problems. As John said, it's not in the Bernabéu, it's in Paris. Liverpool beat them in Paris in 1981 when Alan Kennedy scored that goal. I know that doesn't have much to do with it, but no, I would say my mind is made up now. I don't care what teams they put out on the night. My mind is made up now. Liverpool are a better team than Real Madrid, and I think they'll win. Okay,
we're grateful to you, Liam, for joining us. Just a final word with you, John. The game in Paris and the prospect of Vinicius Jr. going head-to-head with Trent Alexander-Arnold. As a Liverpool supporter, it terrifies me.
Well, I don't think they'll get the ball out to him that much, Eamon. I think Liverpool will dominate the play. I can't see Liverpool losing that match.
Right.
I think they've too much for them, Eamon.
Yeah, I think so too. And perhaps, when you look at Modric, Toni Kroos, I don't see any decline, I must admit, in Benzema, and he's 34 years of age. But I think overall, in terms of experience and legs, Liverpool should start favourites. We're very grateful to John and to Liam for joining us this morning. We couldn't miss discussing that amazing game last night in Madrid. And, of course, we all look forward to the final on the 28th of May in Paris. I'm very grateful to John Giles and Liam Brady